if everything you have built suddenly becomes invisible, who are you?
Imagine that you moved to a completely new place. No one knows your past, no one knows your achievements, and no one knows the roles you held, the words, the projects, and the responsibilities. Everything you spent years building suddenly invisible, and someone asks you a very simple question. Tell us about yourself. What would you say? Months ago, that question became very real for me because I moved from Vietnam to the United States, and from the outside, that decision didn't seem obvious. In Vietnam, it looked like I already had everything. I had academic achievements, I have leadership roles, I have strong relationship with teachers and friends, a familiar environment where people understood me without needing explanation. If I had stayed, I could have continued growing there, taking on bigger responsibilities, leading more projects, building even more influence in the same system. So leaving wasn't the obvious choice, but the real question for me wasn't only why go. It was also, what exactly am I leaving behind? During my time in Vietnam, especially in 8th grade, I had the opportunity to grow up in many different ways. I received full academic honors at the end of school year. I participated in many extracurricular activities and competitions. I held roles in the student council, but more importantly, I built meaningful relationships. Teachers who understood me through observation, not just introductions. Friends who knew me through actions, not just titles. Mentors and teammates who had watched my growth over time. There was a real community I belonged to. From the outside, it looked like a very solid position, and maybe it was, but the way I started seeing my journey began to change. I've usually imagined growth like a game. Each school year is a level, each activity is a side quest, and each achievement unlocks a new skill. And when I looked back, I realized something. I had explored almost everything my old server could offer me at that stage. Finishing a server doesn't mean you are the best player. It simply means you experienced enough, learned enough, and developed enough in that environment. So the question naturally appeared. Why not try a new server? Because switching servers isn't a reset. Skills don't disappear. Experience doesn't get deleted. Titles don't vanish. Relationships don't fade away. Everything stays. It's on you. And just like in games, when you enter a harder map, those skills you unlocked earlier are exactly what help you survive. Going somewhere new has never meant abandoning the past. The memories, relationships, and the people who worked part of the journey with me still remain. And more importantly, the experience, skills, and mindset again still belong to me. And my school taught me something important. Learning isn't just about being smart, it's also about becoming confident, learning to take responsibility, learning to be resilient, learning to be ready to step beyond what feels safe. Those lessons became part of the mindset I carried with me. Before making the final decision, I had a conversation with my homeroom teacher, Mr. John. I asked him something simple. Should I stay or should I go? He didn't choose for me. Instead, he said something that stayed with me. If you want a bigger goals, sometimes you need to place yourself in a wider environment. And then he added, but make sure you understand why you're going. He didn't push me. He simply reminded me to be intentional. And I was. Technically, I didn't have to move so early. I could have stayed in Vietnam with my friends and my teachers until finishing 12th grade and then gone abroad for university. That path would have been completely reasonable, but my family had the opportunity and conditions to move earlier, and if a destination was already clear, studying sooner simply made sense. Moving earlier meant adapting, adjusting, and preparing earlier. And more importantly, it gave me time. Time to explore a new environment and a new culture. Time to experience new responsibilities. Time to grow in ways I might not have experienced if I had stayed comfortable. And I learned something clearly. When we're young, experience is the faster way to expand our skills and horizon. That has always been the mindset I chose. My parents also played a huge role in this decision. They prioritized the future of my younger sister and me. They were willing to sacrifice stability for better opportunities for us. And what I admire most is their mindset. My dad once said, "We're still young. Let's treat this as a starting over and see how far we can go." For him, starting over isn't losing. It makes life more interesting, more colorful, and more memorable. Through that, I knew experience makes life richer. Moving to the United States isn't starting from zero, it's simply starting on a different map. Here, I became a primary English speaker and a family translator. I have been renting an apartment, buying a car, paperwork, checking in for flights, and much more. They may seem like small things, but they build responsibilities, they build independence, and they push me to grow faster. But you know what? The funniest thing is the hardest challenge wasn't academics. It also wasn't the language. It was a simple question people ask all the time. Tell us about yourself. In my old environment, I didn't need to explain who I was. People had watched me grow. Teachers understood my work ethic. Friends knew my character. Time had already introduced me. But here, no one knew my past. No one knew the things I had built. Everything invincible. And suddenly, I had to define myself in just a few sentences, which is harder than it sounds. Because when you strip away titles, strip away achievements, strip away history, who are you? That's the question I'm learning to answer every single day, to reflect more deeply, to define myself more clearly, and to articulate my value without just relying on a resume. And luckily, over the years, my family, teachers, mentors, teammates, and friends helped me collect pieces of identity. Responsible, proactive, energetic, curious, hardworking, perfectionist, resilient, and versatile. Now, I think it's time for me to assemble those pieces. So when someone asks me, "Who are you?" I don't just answer with the title, I answer with clarity. This is Anto. This is Jen. Not starting from zero, but starting from awareness. And my final message is, I didn't leave Vietnam because something was missing. I left to test how far the things I have built could take me. Just like in a game, finishing one level is in the end, it unlocks the next one, and my next level is in the United States. Starting over doesn't mean losing everything or starting from zero. It means starting from experience, trusting what you have built, and having the courage to use it in a bigger world. And when a student from a familiar environment is brave enough to step into the world, that courage is not only personal growth, it's also a quieter bright for a place that helps shape them. And that was my story with Jane, a place where I share the lessons and reflection I've gathered from my own experience. If you are going through or about to go through something similar, I hope this podcast helps you feel a little lighter and a little less alone. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.